We are culturally conditioned to avoid suffering at all costs. Our societies are built on the pursuit of comfort, pleasure, and the avoidance of pain, both physical and emotional. We are told to seek happiness, to optimize our lives for ease and enjoyment, to minimize discomfort in every way possible. But what if this relentless pursuit of comfort is actually blinding us to a deeper truth? What if the very thing we try so hard to avoid, suffering, is not an obstacle to overcome, but a doorway to something more? What if suffering, paradoxically, is the key to enlightenment? This idea may seem counterintuitive, even disturbing, in a culture obsessed with positivity and pain avoidance. Enlightenment, as we often imagine it, is a state of bliss, peace, and liberation, the antithesis of suffering. Yet, throughout history, across spiritual traditions and philosophical schools, a recurring theme emerges that suffering, in its various forms, plays a crucial role in profound transformation, in deeper understanding, in the very process of awakening. It's a paradox, a challenging and uncomfortable one, but one that deserves our serious consideration. Could it be that the path to light goes through the darkness? That the key to joy is found in facing sorrow? What if our aversion to suffering is actually hindering our growth, limiting our potential, and preventing us from accessing a deeper level of understanding and fulfillment? What if, by constantly running from discomfort, we are running away from the very experiences that could unlock our greatest potential? Is it possible that suffering, when approached with awareness and intention, is not an enemy to be defeated, but a teacher to be heeded, a catalyst for profound awakening? What is your immediate response to the idea that suffering could be key to enlightenment? Does it resonate with you at all? Or does it feel completely wrong? To delve into this challenging question, we first need to define our terms. Let's begin by understanding what we mean by suffering in this context. It's crucial to clarify that we are not glorifying pain, nor are we suggesting that seeking out suffering is inherently virtuous or desirable. Instead, we are examining suffering as an inherent aspect of the human condition, as an unavoidable part of life, and exploring its potential transformative role. Suffering, in this sense, encompasses a broad spectrum of experiences. This spectrum includes physical pain, emotional distress, mental anguish, loss, grief, disappointment, existential angst, the frustration of unmet desires, the impermanence of all things, and the inherent limitations of human existence. It's not just extreme trauma or dramatic hardship, but also the everyday experiences of discomfort, dissatisfaction, and unease that are woven into the fabric of human life. From the mundane frustrations of daily life to profound existential crises, suffering, in its various forms, is a constant companion on our human journey. It is the dukkha described in Buddhist philosophy, the fundamental unsatisfactoriness of existence. Now, let's consider enlightenment. Again, we need to move beyond simplistic, often romanticized notions. Enlightenment is not merely a state of perpetual bliss, a constant euphoric high, or an escape from the realities of human existence. It's not about becoming detached from emotions or indifferent to the world's pain. Instead, enlightenment, in its deeper sense, is often described as a profound shift in perspective, a radical awakening to the true nature of reality, a liberation from illusion and limiting beliefs. and a deep understanding of interconnectedness and compassion. It is not an escape from life, but a deeper engagement with life in all its complexity, including its inherent suffering. Key qualities often associated with enlightenment include increased awareness and presence, a deeper sense of peace and equanimity, greater compassion and empathy, liberation from egoic attachments, a clearer understanding of reality, and a profound sense of interconnectedness with all beings. It's a shift from a limited, egocentric perspective to a more expansive, compassionate, and wisdom-based way of being. Enlightenment is not the absence of feeling, but a transformation of feeling, a movement from reactive suffering to responsive compassion, from egoic clinging to liberated presence. It is a profound shift in consciousness, not a superficial emotional state. With these definitions in mind, we can now approach the central question. Why might suffering be the key to this profound transformation we call enlightenment? Why would something so inherently unpleasant, so universally avoided, be considered a catalyst for such a positive and transformative state? It seems paradoxical, even contradictory. But let's delve deeper and explore the potential mechanisms and profound insights that might explain this counterintuitive connection. What is it about suffering that could possibly unlock enlightenment? One crucial mechanism is suffering's ability to break down illusions. Our everyday lives are often built upon layers of illusions. Illusions of control, illusions of permanence, illusions of separateness, illusions of a fixed and solid self. Suffering in its various forms has a way of shattering these illusions. When we experience intense pain, loss, or hardship, the comfortable structures of our perceived reality can crumble. We are forced to confront the impermanence of life, the limits of our control, and the fragility of our egoic identities. This shattering of illusions, while often painful, can be a necessary step towards seeing reality more clearly. Suffering often forces introspection and self-reflection. When life is easy and comfortable, we may be less inclined to question our assumptions, examine our beliefs, or delve into the deeper questions of existence. But when suffering arises, it can become impossible to ignore the inner turmoil. We are compelled to turn inward to examine our lives, our choices, our beliefs, and our very sense of self. This forced introspection, while often uncomfortable, can be a powerful catalyst for self-discovery and deeper understanding. It is in the crucible of suffering that we are often forged anew. Suffering cultivates empathy and compassion. When we experience our own pain, loss, and vulnerability, we become more deeply aware of the shared human condition. We realize that suffering is not unique to us, but a universal aspect of life, experienced by all beings. This shared experience of suffering can break down the barriers of separateness and foster a profound sense of empathy and compassion for others. Having tasted our own pain, we become more sensitive to the pain of others, more motivated to alleviate suffering, and more deeply connected to the web of human experience. Suffering, paradoxically, can open our hearts. Suffering clarifies our values and priorities. In times of ease and comfort, we may become distracted by superficial pursuits, material desires, and fleeting pleasures. But when faced with suffering, we are often stripped bare, forced to confront what truly matters to us. Suffering can act as a refining fire, burning away the superficial and revealing the core values that are truly meaningful and enduring. It can help us distinguish between what is truly important and what is merely trivial, guiding us towards a more authentic and purpose-driven life. Suffering helps us discern the gold from the dross in our lives. These mechanisms offer a glimpse into how suffering might operate as a catalyst for enlightenment. But this idea is not just a modern self-help concept. It has deep roots in philosophical and spiritual traditions throughout history. Perhaps the most prominent tradition emphasizing the role of suffering is Buddhism. The very first of the Four Noble Truths, the foundation of Buddhist teachings, is dukkha, often translated as suffering, unsatisfactoriness, or unease. Buddhism doesn't deny the existence of happiness, but it recognizes that suffering is an inherent and unavoidable aspect of the human condition. It's not seen as a punishment or a mistake, but as a fundamental reality to be understood and worked with. Buddhism teaches that by directly facing and understanding dukkha, we can ultimately transcend it and achieve liberation, or enlightenment, nirvana. Buddhist practice, particularly the Eightfold Path, is essentially a path of working with suffering. Mindfulness meditation, for example, is a practice of directly observing and acknowledging suffering without judgment or resistance. Ethical conduct, compassion, and wisdom are all cultivated as antidotes to the causes of suffering, both personal and collective. Buddhism doesn't advocate for seeking out suffering, but it emphasizes the importance of facing it with awareness, understanding its roots, and cultivating practices that lead to liberation from suffering, which is itself considered a form of enlightenment. The path to nirvana in Buddhist thought is paved with the understanding of dukkha. Stoicism, a Western philosophical school originating in ancient Greece, also emphasizes the importance of facing adversity and hardship. Stoics like Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, and Seneca believed that virtue, wisdom, and inner peace are cultivated not in times of ease, but in times of challenge. They didn't glorify suffering for its own sake, but they saw it as an inevitable part of life and a crucial opportunity for moral and spiritual growth. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control, our thoughts and actions, and to accept what we cannot control, external circumstances, including suffering. For Stoics, virtue is cultivated through facing adversity with courage, reason, and self-control. Suffering becomes a training ground for developing resilience, inner strength, and moral character. By practicing acceptance of what we cannot change, focusing on our inner virtues, and maintaining our composure in the face of hardship, Stoics believed we could achieve a state of ataraxia, or tranquility, even amidst external turmoil. Stoicism offers a practical philosophy for navigating suffering, not by avoiding it, but by transforming our relationship to it, seeing it as an opportunity for growth and the cultivation of inner virtue. Suffering in Stoic thought refines character. Existentialist philosophy, while diverse, also grapples with the role of suffering in the human condition. Existentialists like Albert Camus and Jean-Paul Sartre emphasized the inherent meaninglessness of existence, the absurdity of life, and the weight of human freedom and responsibility. For existentialists, suffering is not something to be transcended to reach a blissful state, but an intrinsic part of the human experience, arising from our consciousness, our freedom, and our confrontation with mortality. They argue that it is in facing this suffering, in confronting the absurdity and meaninglessness, that we can create our own meaning and live authentically. Existentialism doesn't offer a path to enlightenment in a traditional spiritual sense, but it does suggest that facing suffering, confronting the void, and embracing the anguish of freedom are essential for living an authentic and meaningful life. Meaning is not preordained or externally given, but created through our choices, our actions, and our courageous engagement with the complexities and uncertainties of existence, including its inherent suffering. For existentialists, running from suffering is running from life itself. Authenticity, in this view, is forged in the fires of existential angst and the courageous acceptance of the human condition with all its inherent limitations and suffering. These philosophical perspectives offer profound insights into the potential transformative role of suffering. However, it's crucial to address some important caveats and nuances. We must be careful not to romanticize suffering, to minimize its real impact, or to suggest that all suffering is inherently beneficial. This leads us to our fourth key point: caveats and nuances. It's vital to approach this topic with wisdom, balance, and a deep understanding of the complexities of human experience. Let's explore some crucial distinctions and cautionary notes. Firstly, not all suffering is equal. There is a crucial distinction between chosen suffering, undertaken consciously for growth or meaning, and unnecessary or avoidable suffering caused by injustice, oppression, or preventable harm. The transformative potential we're discussing primarily applies to suffering that is inherent to the human condition. Loss, grief, disappointment, existential angst, and to challenges we consciously choose to undertake for growth. Suffering caused by systemic injustice, abuse, or preventable illness is not inherently ennobling or enlightening. It is simply suffering that should be alleviated and addressed. We must distinguish between suffering that can be a catalyst for growth and suffering that is simply wrong and harmful. Secondly, we must avoid glorifying pain or romanticizing suffering. Suffering is not inherently good, desirable, or something to be actively sought out. It is often deeply unpleasant, emotionally and physically damaging, and something to be alleviated whenever possible, especially for ourselves and others. The point is not to seek suffering, but to understand that when it inevitably arises in life, it can be approached as a potential opportunity for growth and deeper understanding, rather than solely as an enemy to be resisted and avoided. Compassion for ourselves and others in the face of suffering is paramount. Glorification of pain is not. Thirdly, acknowledging the transformative potential of suffering does not negate the importance of seeking support, healing, and relief from suffering whenever needed. Mental health support, therapy, medical care, and social support systems are crucial resources for navigating difficult times and alleviating unnecessary suffering. It is not about toughing it out alone or denying the need for help. Rather, it's about integrating support and healing with a deeper understanding of the potential for growth within challenging experiences. Seeking help is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of wisdom and self-compassion, especially when facing intense suffering. Finally, the transformative potential of suffering is realized through active engagement, not passive endurance. Simply enduring suffering without awareness, reflection, or intention is unlikely to lead to enlightenment. The key is to approach suffering with mindfulness, curiosity, and a willingness to learn and grow from the experience. It's about actively engaging with the challenges life presents, rather than passively succumbing to them. Suffering itself is not magical. It is our response to suffering, our conscious engagement with it, that holds the potential for transformation. Agency, intention, and mindful awareness are crucial elements in transforming suffering into a catalyst for growth. With these caveats in mind, we can now explore more practical approaches to working with suffering in a potentially transformative way. It's not about seeking pain, but about cultivating a different relationship to the inevitable challenges of life, a relationship characterized by awareness, acceptance, and a willingness to learn and grow. This leads us to our fifth and final point: practical approaches to transforming suffering. How can we consciously engage with suffering in a way that fosters growth, deepens understanding, and potentially even leads to a form of enlightenment, however we define it? One fundamental approach is to cultivate mindfulness and acceptance in the face of suffering. Practice observing your suffering, physical pain, emotional distress, mental anguish, with non-judgmental awareness. Instead of immediately resisting, reacting, or trying to escape the discomfort, simply acknowledge its presence, observe its sensations, and allow it to be there without getting swept away by it. This mindful acceptance doesn't mean liking suffering or wanting it to continue, but it means ceasing the internal struggle against reality, which often amplifies the pain. Mindfulness and acceptance are the first steps in transforming our relationship to suffering. Cultivate self-compassion in the midst of suffering. Recognize that suffering is a universal human experience and that you are not alone in your pain. Treat yourself with the same kindness, understanding, and care that you would offer to a dear friend who is struggling. Practice self-soothing techniques, offer words of comfort to yourself, and remind yourself of your inherent worthiness, even in the midst of hardship. Self-compassion softens the edges of suffering, reduces self-criticism, and provides a foundation of inner support to navigate challenging times with greater resilience and grace. Kindness towards oneself is a powerful antidote to the isolating nature of suffering. Actively seek meaning and purpose within your suffering rather than seeing it as meaningless or pointless. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this experience? How can this challenge help me grow? How can I use this suffering to deepen my compassion and understanding of others? Finding meaning in suffering doesn't negate the pain, but it can transform it from a purely negative experience into a potential catalyst for growth, purpose, and deeper understanding. Viktor Frankl's work in Man's Search for Meaning powerfully illustrates the human capacity to find meaning even in the face of unimaginable suffering. Meaning provides a compass in the darkness. Actively seek support and connection with others. Suffering can be isolating, leading us to withdraw and feel alone in our pain. Resist this urge to isolate. Reach out to trusted friends, family members, therapists, or support groups. Sharing your suffering with others, receiving empathy and understanding, and knowing that you're not alone, can significantly alleviate the burden and facilitate healing and growth. Human connection is a vital resource for navigating suffering and fostering resilience. Vulnerability and connection are strengths, not weaknesses, in times of hardship. These practical approaches are not about eliminating suffering from life. That is an impossible and ultimately undesirable goal. They are about transforming our relationship to suffering, shifting from resistance and avoidance to acceptance, awareness, and active engagement. This shift, this conscious and compassionate approach to suffering, holds the potential for profound personal growth, deeper understanding, and even a form of enlightenment, a liberation from reactive suffering, and a movement towards wisdom and compassion. This brings us to our conclusion and the transformative power of embracing this challenging truth. The revolutionary idea is that suffering, the very thing we instinctively resist and avoid, is not just an obstacle on the path to enlightenment, but potentially the path itself. It is in facing our pain, in acknowledging our vulnerability, in grappling with the inherent challenges of human existence, that we have the opportunity to break down illusions, cultivate empathy, clarify our values, and awaken to a deeper understanding of ourselves and reality. Suffering, when approached with awareness and compassion, is not an enemy to be defeated, but a profound teacher to be heeded. It is a challenging truth, but one that holds immense transformative potential. Paradoxically, by ceasing our relentless struggle against suffering, by embracing its presence with mindful awareness and self-compassion, we may actually find a deeper and more enduring form of peace, joy, and liberation. Enlightenment, in this view, is not an escape from suffering, but a transformation of our relationship to it. It is not about eliminating pain from life, but about finding freedom within pain, about discovering wisdom through hardship, and about cultivating compassion because of our shared human vulnerability. There is a profound and unexpected hope to be found in this challenging truth, that even in our darkest moments, the seeds of awakening are present, waiting to be cultivated. So let us shift our perspective. Let us stop running from discomfort and instead turn towards our suffering with courage, curiosity, and compassion. Let us embrace the challenging truth that suffering, in its various forms, is an inevitable part of the human journey and potentially a key catalyst for profound transformation. Choose to approach your own suffering with mindful awareness and self-compassion. Choose to seek the lessons hidden within your pain. Choose to believe in your capacity for growth, even in the midst of hardship. And in doing so, you may discover that the very experiences you once sought to avoid are actually guiding you towards a deeper, more authentic, and more enlightened way of being. Your journey to awakening, paradoxically, may begin in the heart of your suffering,